Hi everyone, I am Mary. I've been out here before. I've come out to Douglas to talk about inflammation today. So let me start. So what time is it? It's 10:30. We'll talk for about a half an hour or so if you have any questions. And then I did a little food demo, a couple of recipes to try based on the inflammation that we're talking about today, some of the ingredients and everything that we can go over. And if you'd like, you can do some taste testing for those recipes as well. And the recipes will be available. Inflammation. Does anyone have inflammation? Lots of hands. Okay. So inflammation is actually the body's natural way of fighting off infections. So we're all going to have inflammation at some point, whether it's, if we get sick or if we get a cut or anything, the body is going to actually send a bunch of, messengers and things to that site. I actually hit my hand on a file cabinet, and so it's going to get red and inflamed, and it's going to be painful. To a certain point, and that's a good thing because I know that my body is reacting to something that's gone wrong, and over time that's going to heal. It's getting better. It doesn't feel so painful. It's not red anymore. So that's kind of an acute inflammation. It's going to last several days to maybe a couple weeks, and you're better. Chronic inflammation, on the other hand, is when you do have that inflammatory response, which is natural, but then it doesn't stop and it keeps going on. So something's off in our body at that point. And inflammation, sometimes we don't see it. It's going on inside of our body, so we don't see that inflammation like you would a cut on the surface of your skin, all right? So it's kind of like comparing it to fire. Fire, in a little pit sitting outside on a cool summer night is nice to have. It warms us up. It gives a beautiful glow. Or in a fireplace during the winter, it's nice to have. But if that fire pit and that fire gets out of control in the summer and starts to burn down more things, then we're kind of in trouble. So we want to try to keep inflammation in check. Inflammation, when it's chronic, long-term, months, years, actually is leading to breaking down our cells in our body, and it can then, because it's breaking down those cells, lead to chronic diseases like diabetes, like autoimmune diseases, like Parkinson's, like heart disease, cancer, all of those things. So we want to try to do things that are going to help prevent inflammation. So it's not just nutrition, but nutrition is a big chunk of trying to prevent chronic inflammation. They say about 60% of the chronic diseases that we have today, including cancer and heart disease and things like that, could be prevented by eating a more nutritious diet. But other things that also contribute to lessening our chances for chronic inflammation would be, getting proper sleep, managing our stress levels, getting proper exercise, moving about as much as we can, not smoking, drinking alcohol in moderation. Some is good, but not too much. And then eating a healthy diet is up there as well. And also trying to manage our weight so that it stays within a healthy weight as well. So one good measure, if you feel, I'm sure you're being monitored by your doctors if you feel you have a chronic state of inflammation, but one thing that they look at in blood work is called a CRP, which is an indicator in our body if we are experiencing inflammation. How to prevent or reduce unnecessary inflammation we talked about. So, my back is aching, so I'm going to take ibuprofen, and that's going to help with that inflammation, but that medication also has a lot of side effects. So what can I do over the long term to prevent that inflammation so I don't have to resort to medications? And that's, choosing really healthy foods. So nutrition plays a factor in anti-inflammation because if we look at certain foods, and they have been studied over time, in usually big studies that end up giving us results, people or populations are looked at for a series of many years. And they'll go in and look at a certain population and say they really have a low risk of heart disease, or they don't develop cancer that much, or whatever it might be. And they go in and study the people. What are they doing exactly that is helping them to have a lesser risk of such and such? So with these population studies that they do, nutrition is one of the biggest factors that they find. And there's even areas in the world that are called blue zones, and they study those populations because they're like, what are they doing? They're like the oldest people. They can, be over 100 years old, and they're still really healthy. We only have one blue zone in the United States, and that's in Loma Linda, California. And that group out there is a Seventh-day Adventist group. It does, relate to their diet, but also their stress level, their activity level, and things like that. But most Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarian. So they look at these people and they get the results. So what types of foods are they eating? So a Mediterranean diet is also one of the diet patterns that is a very anti-inflammatory diet. So the Mediterranean cultures are, southern France, Greece, Italy, and so they look at this population. What are they doing that helps them to prevent inflammation at all? So they are doing those things that I talked about, not smoking, limiting their alcohol intake. They are very active, eating anti-inflammatory food, which we'll talk about, getting enough good quality sleep, managing stress, and managing weight. So that Mediterranean diet, let me give you some aspects of it. It is considered a plant-based pattern, though not exclusively. They do include fish in their eating, and they have very, very little, but sometimes they do have red meat, but that's really not a big part of their diet at all. So relatively, the diet is very high in monounsaturated fats. So we know that olive oil is coming from that area of the world. So your extra virgin olive oil has really good monounsaturated healthy fats. So that's a big chunk of their diet. Their saturated fats are very, very little. Where do we get saturated fats from? Usually from processed foods, dessert items and things like that Americans are big on. And also from red meat is high in saturated fat and cholesterol. So their intake is very, very low. They have a high intake of omega-3 fatty acids from the fish intake. They have 2 or more servings per week, and also from plant sources. In this country, we have a very high intake of omega-6 fatty acids. So omega-6s are coming from refined corn oils and vegetable oils. And it's not so much that those oils are bad, it's just what they're used for in this country by food manufacturers is to make a lot of processed foods. So we're eating a very high ratio of processed foods that have a lot of omega-6s. And where we want our, ratio of omega-3s, which are the good omega-3s or healthy fatty acids, we want it to be a ratio of like 3 to 1. So omega-6 is about 3, and the omega-3 is about 3, and actually no, I had it right the first time. 3 to 1 being omega-3s around a 1, and the omega-6 is around a 3 intake. So, but in America, we're eating, our ratio is like 14 to 1. So we're eating so much more of the omega-6s and less in those omega-3s. So we want more of our fish intake, 2 or more servings per week. Also, they have a very high fruit and vegetable consumption, and they have a high fiber consumption. They're consuming about 32 grams per day. The recommendation in America is about 25 to 38 grams of fiber per day, and Americans aren't anywhere near close to that. And one of the biggest contributors for fiber would be our fruits and vegetables. Beans are huge, and then whole grains as opposed to like enriched white bread or white rice. These cultures eat more whole grains. Okay, so the anti-inflammatory diet for us, what can we do? We can eat, first of all, a colorful, well-balanced diet with lots of fruits and vegetables. The goal here is to try to eat 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables each day. The color that you get in these fruits and vegetables, so let me go back to this. So what's in these foods? So foods are plants, I should say, are very smart. They have a lot of compounds in them that help them when they're growing. So it can be anything from their colors to like a blueberry or sweet potato, all those deep, beautiful like colors of the rainbow. It could be an odor. So like your sulfur-containing vegetables, like your onions and your garlic, your leeks, things like that have that kind of sulfury smell to them. Or it could be, in there, so I did color, the smell of it, or it could be just something that we don't see at all that these plants have to protect them. So, for example, they could have a particular color that helps them to absorb more, energy from the sun. Or they could have a particular odor in order to protect them from like a pest that would otherwise destroy them. Or, so there's all different reasons why they have the things that they have, the compounds that they have in order to make them grow healthy. And scientists have looked at these compounds over the years and realized that if we eat these compounds, then they help us. Well, how do they help us? So every day we're subjected to oxygen and light, we're subjected to pollution, we're subjected to, if we're not eating a good diet, any type of pesticides in foods or anything like that. So all of these things break down our cells, and our human body is made up of millions of cells. So we want to try to do everything that we can to protect and nourish our cells in order to give those cells what they need, because cells break down, and when they regenerate and we develop new cells, we want them to be healthy. But when we're subjected to not good things, if we're not getting sleep and we have stress, or we're not eating a good diet, or whatever it might be, those cells are subject to breaking down, but when they regenerate, they're regenerating as kind of a harmful cell. And over time, if our body is out of balance between good and bad cells, that's what's leading to that chronic disease that we might have. So through giving it good nutrition, through giving it these plant compounds that these plants do have, we are trying to give our body what's called anti-inflammatories or antioxidants. So kind of like if you had something copper and it gets like a green coating to it, or if you cut an apple and it gets brown, that's oxygen that's actually affecting those things, whether it be the fruit or the copper. So what we're trying to do is give our body antioxidants that we get from these nourishing foods that will prevent our cells from getting that green patina thing that you get on copper, or getting that brown for an apple. So the more of these foods that we can eat, the more it's going to help us to, it prevents anti-aging, it helps prevent illness, and it helps prevent chronic diseases. So that healthy diet is really important. So eating a colorful, well-balanced diet with lots of fruits and vegetables. So aiming for at least 4.5 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day. And I heard it's a lot, but it's not really a lot. So it's possible to do. So for example, so I got up this morning and I had my breakfast, which was, I typically always have, because I like it, a whole grain toast with almond butter and a banana and a small glass of orange juice. Well, right from that banana and that small glass of orange juice, I've already had 2. That's breakfast, okay? Also, that whole grain toast is giving me the fiber that I need. That almond butter is going to that heart-healthy fat that I want to have, a good protein source, okay? So mid-morning, and I brought, what's in a dietitian's cooler. So this is for the day. This is what I'm having. And I didn't get a chance to eat it yet, but I usually have this mid-morning. I'll put in a bowl overnight. I have mango and blueberries in here. Again, this is going to be my 3rd serving now, and it's only mid-morning of my fruits. And then I'm also adding a banana in it, so actually I'm up to 4 servings. I put a little bit of I don't eat dairy, but you can use a regular low-fat dairy, but I'm going to go with a coconut dairy that's going in there. And then on top of that, and we'll talk about them, I'm putting mixed nuts. So now I have a great protein. I'm up to 4 servings of fruit. I have a calcium and a probiotic food, and it's now only mid-morning. Okay, so I'm exceeding my fruit and vegetable, my fruit intake at this point. Then I'm going to get to lunch, and I also have, little snacks that are fruit. And then I get to lunch, and this I just use the container from the grocery store, but it's baby kale. And in that baby kale, I'm putting, berries. I'm putting more nuts. I'm putting garbanzo beans. And then I'm going to add, which I have with me to show you a demonstration, some quinoa as a grain. So I'm getting vegetable now. Now I'm, again, over my fruit serving, and it's still only lunch. So it's very easy to do when you're doing a plant-based a concentrated diet. And I'm not saying that you have to become completely, it's called just moving towards a plant-based diet. And that's what Choose My Plate is actually trying to encourage. The USDA is trying to encourage Americans to fill 3/4 of our plate with fruits, vegetables, and grains, and leave that quarter of a plate for the protein sources that we're so used to filling our plate with, which is the meats and the chickens and all that stuff, and instead shifting that to a condiment, which these other cultures, that's how they eat and that's why they stay healthy. It becomes a condiment, and everything else is fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Okay, so I'll have to save this for later, but and this is also a tidbit. If you carry a cooler, a little headache bag is a great little way to keep things cold in your bag as you travel, and you can always fill that with ice. Hey.
So can you come home with me?
Sure, yes.
It'll take me all day to get it together.
Okay, so eating those, the colorful fruits and vegetables, get a couple, all right. So increasing our omega-3 fatty acids, one of the easiest ways to do that is using your olive oil for more cooking purposes, and not, the canola oil is good too because it has a high rate of monounsaturated fat, but your olive oil is good with that omega-3. But especially like your fatty fish, making sure, mackerel and the salmon, your albacore tuna are great ways to get in that omega-3. If you don't eat fish, it's really been proven that even these fish oil supplements do help with heart health and everything. So a fish supplement, and then for people that don't eat fish at all, there are new algae supplements that are on the market that also have the omega-3s that are really important. Fish eat algae and they develop omega-3, so why not go right to the source and have the algae and take that as a supplement yourself if you're not a big fish fan. Okay, so we said increasing that olive oil in our diet. Coconut oil, some people are it's big. I still use caution with coconut oil because it is still a saturated fat, and studies still have to be done long term to determine whether the fat that's in coconut oil does act differently than the saturated fats that we eat so much of in this country. So I would just use it in moderation if you wanted to use coconut oil. Anti-inflammatory diet, so let's try to get the trans fats out of our intake. Trans fats, actually, the government at the beginning of the year or the end of last year told food manufacturers that they have to get these trans fats out of foods. So we're lucky in that respect that we shouldn't be finding those trans fats in many of our store-bought foods any longer. That's how bad those were. But your labels do show trans fats on there, so you can take a look and make sure you're not getting any trans fats at all. They're not good. Limiting your refined vegetable oil, so like your soybean, your corn, your safflower. And again, not because those are bad. If you're using them to cook, it's best to use that olive oil, but if you're using these to cook, that's okay. It's really getting them out of our diet in terms of the way that they're being used in the food industry for fried foods, or fast food industry is big on using those seed oils. reducing our saturated fat intake. So we're leaning more towards mono and polyunsaturated. So the biggest contributor to saturated fat in the American diet is those processed dessert items, your Entenmann's, you know, all those dessert things, because they use like solidified fat to make those products, and they're not good. But also your red meat and your processed meats, like your hot dogs and your deli meat, can be a big contributor to the saturated fat. Moderate dairy intake. It's great to have fermented products. Yogurt is really good for probiotics in your gut, keeping your gut healthy. You know, just reducing your butter, your cream usage, full fat dairy, which is high in saturated fat, red meat, and processed meats. And with grilling, you know, season upon us, it's really important to not char your foods when you're grilling, because that can actually, especially red meats, they say the fat drippings with the flame turns some of the meat products into cancer-causing compounds. So you just want to avoid any charring of food. Try to get more whole grains in our diet. Again, going back to, you know, I have quinoa today, but, you know, millet and barley and brown rice and whole wheat are all important, as opposed to refined carbohydrates that we find all over our supermarket. And really concentrating on getting a lot more fiber in our diet. And again, that's if you're increasing your fruit and vegetable intake, you're going to do that, as well as those whole grains, but also introducing possibly beans or seeds into your diet as well, in nuts to get more fiber, aiming for like that 25 to 30 grams per day. So why don't I start to set this up, but does anyone have any questions at this point about anything, the anti-inflammatory diet? And so up here is lots of handouts on the anti-inflammatory diet. There's recipes up here. There's information on all the different antioxidants that you find in food. I'll go over some of them now. Like, so you know, we hear about some of them, but there's over 4,000 different phytochemicals, they're called. Phyto means plant in Greek. You know, that's a Greek word for plant. And chemicals are just these different compounds that are in our fruits and vegetables and whole grains and in plant foods that help us. So for example, lycopene, I think we've all heard of in tomatoes, is an antioxidant. It cuts the risk of cancer. So we find that in tomatoes, tomato products, watermelon. And this is like eating from the rainbow, all these beautiful things here. Your blues and your blueberries and your grapes and your plums contain these antioxidants that help to fight off that patina that you would get on copper. You know, so it's helping to fight off that oxygen that's destroying some of our cells in our body. Your greens from your spinach and your kale and your collards. That is actually giving our body folate, which helps to build healthy cells in our body. Your yellow and oranges from oranges and lemons and grapefruits. Vitamin C, which is a very, very strong antioxidant that inhibits like any type of cancer growth and also detoxifies any harmful substances. So all these you know, various fruits and vegetables help our body. Spices, get my spices also have these health benefits. Basil has an antimicrobial property, also anti-inflammatory properties, can help to prevent cancer. Cinnamon can help reduce cholesterol and triglyceride levels. We're all hearing about turmeric out on the market today as being this big thing for pain management. So it does have anti-inflammatory properties. It helps prevent Alzheimer's disease. Ginger, we always knew it, ginger ale for, you know, calming someone's stomach if they had nausea. It can also help to prevent cancer, they say especially ovarian cancer. It can ease migraines. So there's wonderful properties within all of these spices and foods that we can reap the benefits of if we incorporate them more in our diet. One thing Americans tend to do is if we hear about something good like turmeric being really good for inflammation and osteoarthritis and that, we run out and get supplements to do it. Well, studies aren't out there for supplements doing it. Studies are out there as a food that it helps. So we try to incorporate these more into our diet as a food, as a spice, as a flavoring agent, as opposed to just being a supplement. Because sometimes when we go get the supplement, then long term there could be problems from taking too much of it. So turmeric, people that are on any type of like Coumadin or something have to watch their intake of it, because when they're taking lots of it as a supplement, it can actually have GI bleeding effects. So, you know, so it's shying away from those supplements which are not proven, and it's just incorporating more of these good things in our food. So all of this is up here, recipes, lots of stuff that you can take on the way out. Also a sheet on just all the different, you know, there's, like I said, there's 4,000 different phytochemicals, but this sheet just gives us an example of some of them and what they do. So like your polyphenols in your green tea and your grapes and your wine, your berries and apples and whole grains can help prevent cancer formation, prevent inflammation, and work as an antioxidant. Your carotenoids, which we know are in those orange vegetables and fruits, your carrots, tomatoes, sweet potatoes, apricots, oranges, watermelon, also can inhibit cancer cell growth and work as an antioxidant, and also improve our immunity so that we're not sick as well. So that's here. A colorful little poster to hang maybe on your refrigerator to remind you every day to get in some of these wonderful foods that do fight inflammation. This doesn't mean it's all of them, but you know, here it's listed fruits, your varied fruits, nuts, leafy greens, olive oil, tomatoes, your fatty fish, and try to avoid foods that cause inflammation, which are your fried foods, soda, refined carbohydrates, and processed meats. And just before I start these, you know, this is what you read out there today. Fruits and vegetables bring long-term brain benefit. Eating fruits and vegetables long-term is linked to late life subjective cognitive function. Daily orange juice compared to less than one serving a month, so if you're drinking it regularly every single day, is associated with substantial lower odds of poor cognitive function. Okay, and I'm talking, you know, just the old serving of a quarter cup of orange juice every day instead of big gulps of orange juice, because it is higher in sugar. Reduce cardiovascular risk with the Mediterranean diet. Following a Mediterranean style diet can reduce risk for cardiovascular disease by 25%. So they studied a group of 26,000 women ranging from their 40s to 60s. They studied them for 12 years. These are good studies. They produce accurate results. So that showed that when they were following this Mediterranean type diet, they had a 28% decrease in cardiovascular risk, inflammation, glucose metabolism, insulin resistance, so all diabetes related, and fat storage. Benefits to the heart were similar to benefits from people that were taking medications, okay? A plant-based diet can benefit mood. Red meat triples chemicals linked to heart disease. Plant-based diets are good for the gut, promoting the probiotics. Fried foods linked to early death. So it's out there, and it's been studied that the more that we can incorporate those plant-based foods into our diet, the healthier that we can prevent chronic illness and disease. So what I was going to do for you, any questions? Yeah.
Are vegetables better cooked or raw?
You know what, there's talk like with the lycopene with tomatoes that the lycopene is stronger in the cooked tomato. But it's really anything, because you get so many benefits from different ones. It's good to have them raw, and it's okay to have them cooked. So I wouldn't overcook things, because you can lose nutrients in some vegetables if you're overcooking them. But really raw or cooked is fine. Just getting more in. So what I was going to do, we have a half an hour, so I should be able to do it. I brought stuff already cooked because I didn't know if we were going to have time to do it, but I wanted to do my little hot plate was actually broken, but I thought I'd still bring in some things just to, you know, these, it doesn't have to be, you know, these drawn out type of things. You can do something really quick to make something healthy. So I'm gonna save that for later. So one of the first things I'll do is, this is a nice healthy lunch. So making sure I went to the market to get a whole wheat tortilla. I look on the back, it says in the ingredient list whole wheat. I can look up at the fiber. There's 2 grams of fiber for 1 tortilla. I'd like something more in the range of 3 grams or 5 grams, but at least I know that it's being made whole, so this is gonna be a good fiber source, okay? And so, you know, you're taking it out of the packet. And then I was going to demo this, but I decided it's as easy as getting like a store-bought kind. So this is hummus. Hummus is made out of chickpeas or garbanzo beans. It has when I make mine, and as they're all made, they have olive oil in them. Again, an omega-3, a good oil. Usually they have like tahini. Tahini is a sesame seed paste. So it's sesame seeds, so you're getting a seed in there, a good healthy fat as well. Garlic. Garlic and onion and leeks come from that sulfur-containing family, so I'm getting compounds from there. And so it's as easy as taking that hummus and spreading it on my wrap. And then I'm going to take carrots, so that beta carotene. And you can shred these at home. I have like a little food processor. Actually, I buy bigger carrots, but just for the purpose of demonstration, I got these shredded already, so I'm adding those to that. And then spinach. A great dark green leafy vegetable, again loaded with antioxidants. So rich in folate, vitamin K, C, carotenoids, anti-inflammatory, help for skin care, for eyesight, helps prevent macular degeneration, in cataracts, heart disease, stronger muscles, prevents, so that's your spinach. Let me read everything for the ingredients that are on here. So then you have your carrots. I hope I put them down. But we know there are beta carotene, and then that chickpeas or garbanzo beans are a great source of fiber. So we're getting that healthy fiber in there as well. And then we're, sometimes what I'll do too is take a nice, like a balsamic vinaigrette, and I'll drizzle that on there as well. And you can just wrap it up. And you just slice it. I did bring some toothpicks too that I had to put them in, but I'll try that. Do we have like a little plate? Maybe we can. Thank you. There's a lot more of these, but I'll just put these here so you guys can try these if you like. Does anyone like hummus? Has anyone tried hummus?
Oh, I love hummus.
Yeah. It's great as a, thank you. It's great as a snack too. I think they're gonna fall apart, but I have my little here's the toothpicks. Just to put them in there so that they kind of stick together. Oops, sorry. They're gonna fall apart, but just break off. There's plenty here, so we can make more. Let me just make up another one so that everyone can have one. There's something in those old sayings, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, that are true. It's like all that folklore medicine and stuff that the Indians and Native Americans used to use spices and stuff to cure diseases and do different things. So you wonder all the truth in that we're just opening our eyes to again, because these foods really can heal. Okay. And you think of it, like people will say, well, fruits and veggies are too expensive. You think of the cost, you know, how many are you gonna make out of this? You get a bag of spinach, you get a whole tub of hummus. I mean, this can really last many, many meals. So you might think at the beginning, the initial cost, I know that when I go to get quinoa, it depends. I had gone by a Whole Foods and I ran in to get it there. It is a little bit more expensive there. But typically, say it's around $4 for a bag of it, $4.99 maybe. But a cup of this cooked is going to make up a lot of quinoa. So really, this bag is lasting you for a long time. And if you break that down for the number of servings that you get out of it for the cost of it, it's really not that expensive at all. So I'll do this one the right way now. Put these in while I have it wrapped. Thank you.
How do you know? You can use it. I'm listening to this.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
I like hummus too. And I went to a place that I ate hummus all the time.
Yeah.
I loved it. But then I lost my taste for it because I ate too much. I just couldn't. On pita bread, you cut little squares, little triangles.
Also, another great snack, like in between snack, would be a handful of nuts. It fills you up. It has a little bit of fat, good healthy fat, and then also protein. So you can get mixed nuts with dried fruit as a mid-afternoon snack. Salsa in a baked chip. So that salsa has the tomatoes with the lycopene, which is really healthy for you.
There's no nuts in this, right, Mary?
In the hummus, there should not be,
I know, you don't know.
but they could have some pine nuts. It has chickpeas, tahini, which is the sesame, and that is it. It does not say anything about nuts on it.
The hummus is good. You can taste the hummus.
I mean, you can put more hummus on it too. I just was putting a little bit on, but.
Hummus is like eating candy.
So you think this will be good?
Candy. It's that good. It's like Reese's peanut butter
All right. All right, so the other thing, I'm gonna do a dip, but let me do this. So we're gonna do, this is a fruity, like quinoa salad it's called. So this can be good, like on its own with like a nice piece of crusty bread. It can be very filling because it has a lot of fiber in it.
That's your supper. I hope you enjoy it.
Let me just clean this up here.
What about chocolate? Is chocolate good for you?
Yeah, you want to make sure it's, yeah, in moderation, you know, but at least the 60% or higher is more, it has more antioxidants. Yeah, but definitely you can enjoy chocolate. Tea is another great antioxidant. So wine in moderation again, like a red wine is good. You know, moderation is key with a lot of things. So.
dedicated to this.
Oh.
She looked at the top. Look at
Oh, I got it. So this is going going to be that quinoa salad. So quinoa, again, is actually a seed, but it's called a pseudo grain because it cooks like a grain. It cooks like rice. So you just put a liquid in it and the grain. So a cup of quinoa will cook with 2 cups of a liquid. And then you leave it on for about 15 minutes and it absorbs all the liquid and it cooks into a nice fluffy grain. So this one I cooked in a little bit of broth, but I also make like a quinoa as a breakfast cereal and I cook it in soy milk or almond milk and it comes out really creamy. I also do quinoa. This is so versatile because you can have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I'll cook it with like a curry dish at night and I'll do it in coconut milk. And it really is good with coconut milk, like a light coconut milk. And a curry dish with lots of vegetables and stuff. It really doesn't have a flavor. You have to impart the flavor with whatever you're cooking with or mixing it with. I do salads with quinoa. We're doing a little salad today. I do burritos with quinoa wrapped up. So it really is a nifty little thing. The thing about quinoa, it's one of the only grains that has complete protein. So an animal protein has, like a piece of fish, has all the essential amino acids that our body does not make, that we have to get from a dietary source. And those essential amino acids help our body to regenerate cells and build cells. With plant-based eating, there's not many sources that have that complete protein, it's called, but if you're eating a variety of foods throughout the day, you don't have to worry about it. You're getting it from all different foods. So, for example, spinach might have two of those amino acids, and then rice has, the other 6 or 7. So as long as you're mixing foods, you're fine. Like rice and beans is a complete protein. You don't have to think about it anymore. Years ago, they were like, you have to think about and match your proteins. You don't. As long as you're eating a lot of different foods, you're getting your complete proteins. But quinoa is equivalent to that fish and meat. It has all of the essential amino acids. So it's a high protein food and it has lots of fiber in it. So this is really easy. You cook up your quinoa, again, a cup of it. This is probably a little bit over a cup of it. I think I had a cup and a half left in the bag, so I just figured I'd cook it all up, but I'm getting a lot of quinoa from that. So I actually might leave it in this bowl. I don't know if that's so much bigger. Actually, I need a little for my salad. I'm just going to put some quinoa on my salad. So I'll just use this one. I'll use this one. So I'm gonna put my quinoa, my cooked quinoa, and it's cooled. The other thing with quinoa, once you want to cool it before you put it like anything else in it, or otherwise it will get kind of gummy and sticky. So when it's cooled, it breaks up nice, into like a rice type of, All right. So with that, we're going to do a little dressing. Well, actually, I'm going to put in so I'm putting in pecans, and a trick with breaking these up a little bit more is just leave them in a bag. So do you want me to leave these out? Do you have a problem with pecans too? Or
Nuts.
Nuts, any kind of nut.
Allergic to nuts.
okay, I'll just put that in people that want to have those. So these are dried cherries, so I'm going to put that in. And then my apple was already washed, so I just have to pour it, and then we'll do the dressing. And I'm not gonna peel it because that skin is good fiber.
I like the inside of the apple.
So we're just gonna dice the apple.
I like plums. I love plums.
But you can really get creative and add whatever you want to in here. It doesn't have to be exactly this, so you can add different fruits or nuts that you prefer. But we want like a whole apple in here.
It's good mushy, and then it's juicy.
All right, and while I'm doing that, let's see, so you have your, okay, the cherries, very powerful antioxidant. It really is their nutrition all-star. Anti-inflammatory fiber, vitamin C. They have the carotenoids similar to your carrots, that deep color of them. Cancer prevention, good for the digestive tract.
It is the best way to eat. It's like that.
And like I said, the quinoa, high in fiber,
Just vegetables.
a great source of protein.
Back when you were a kid, you used to eat all pure foods, didn't you? I did too. It was all pure.
All right, so that's there, and you can add the nuts as you need to. And then I want to add the dressing. So for the dressing, we're going to use our olive oil, which is that anti-inflammatory omega-3. So we need, let's see, 3 tablespoons of olive oil.
The olive oil, she's my kind of girl.
All right, we need 2 tablespoons of our lemon juice. I'm a little lazy, I'm not squeezing a lemon. But lemons are very high in vitamin C. How much did I say? 2. Vitamin C, and actually 1 lemon will contain about 51% of your daily needs of vitamin C, just in 1 lemon. And that vitamin C is that antioxidant as well. And then we want a little bit of honey, which is
Yeah, that's nice.
1 teaspoon of honey.
It's got a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah, no.
And then a little salt and pepper. And salt is a good flavoring agent. We're always warning you not to have too much sodium in your diet, but the most sodium you're getting is coming from those processed food items and really not from the salt that you're adding into your recipes to cook. So we want a half a teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper.
Pepper?
Oh, yeah.
I don't like pepper.
One doesn't, the white pepper is not as much of an irritant as the black pepper. But black pepper does have antimicrobial properties, and it also enhances your beta carotene absorption in the body. So it's good. And really, after you do this, you should refrigerate it just so that it chills and tastes a little bit better than at room temperature. But it makes a nice creamy dressing. It also, to let it sit helps it absorb all the flavors too. So let's let this sit. And I have 10 minutes to go where I could do one more food demo. You want one more? This is a dip, and it's using edamame and avocado. Just stir that good, and I'll just cover that till they're ready. And then if you want, there's bowls there, and there's also nuts if you want to add it to there. All right, so this last one is an edamame avocado dip. Does everyone know what edamame is?
No.
Edamame is soybean. So your soy milk and all that tofu and everything comes from edamame. So it looks like a little pea. Very high in protein, very high in fiber. They're really great these are actually a steamable bag. They're really great if you just steam them and just put a little teeny bit of salt on them just to eat them like that. You can even get the ones that are in the pods already and you steam those in a microwave and add a little salt, and that's a really good little snack to have. Edamame is very high in protein, soy protein, and very high in fiber as well, and antioxidants. So this one, and again, you have the recipe for it, is going to be a 12-ounce pack. I only, this was an 8-ounce, so it was a little bit less, but we'll see if it works.
What's with the GMO topic on soy? Because if you're trying to avoid GMOs, there aren't too many soy products that qualify.
Yeah, you have to find organic is the best. My belief with it, yes, it's always better to buy organic, but if you're going to go in the nutrients of something because of fear of the, so if you walked into a store and you really wanted apples and they didn't have, you know, a organic apple, they just had conventional, and you're going to forgo eating the apple, you're letting go of nutrients. I think that taking in the nutrients far outweighs the risk of that GMO in a particular situation. But
Because do you know if agriculturally they're going back to a more basic soybean to avoid the genetically modified ones? No, that's got to be the agricultural industry.
we grow an awful lot of soy in this country, but a lot of the GMO soy actually goes as feed to animals. So you're indirectly eating it if you're eating beef and all that stuff down the road. So I just make sure to get organic soy milk, organic tofu, when possible, organic edamame, whenever possible. So an avocado, a great source of monounsaturated, heart-healthy fats. These are great grilled. You can take this, one of my favorite things that I appetizer for people, I just take this as it is, take out the seed out of each avocado, brush it with a little lime juice and olive oil, put it down on a grill for a couple, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Because it's high in fat, it's going to get a nice grill mark across it. Put them on a plate, they're beautiful. Fill this little hole, not the whole avocado, but just fill the hole with a little bit of salsa. You can put a dollop, a little of sour cream on it, some cilantro and more lime juice, and people can eat them. Actually, they serve, when they soften up on the grill, they serve just as a bowl as it is, and you can eat it right out. They're wonderful. It's a great way to get avocado,
We don't have grills.
avocado.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just getting this avocado in here.
We just have trees, new trees.
And I never knew how to, and I'm not doing it probably the greatest way right now, but I never knew how to like properly cut an avocado. And then I met this gentleman when I was traveling. He actually owned an avocado farm. And he taught me how to dice it and cut it right in its little shell.
Put on this one.
All right, so with that, we're gonna do, I did some chopped onion. So again, from that sulfur-containing family, and you smell it, boy. And then we're gonna do some basil pesto. Again, this is basil, so it had all those antimicrobial properties to it. So we need 2 tablespoons of that. And again, it's packaged in an olive oil.
Pesto. It's overrated.
And then we have some salt and pepper. Did I get everything? Lemon juice, 3 tablespoons of the lemon
It's
juice.
like vinegar. It's olive oil. She's let it come down.
And salt and pepper. Oh, yeah, a little lazy here.
She's gonna have it next to there. I can't stand the sound of these Mexicans.
Hi.
The jar created.
All right, so let's blend this up, and then I have pita chips there that you can try it with. need a food processor, you can actually use like a blender to do it. Yeah, a blender. Maybe it's just not locked.
Come sit with me.
I'm sorry. Well, I'll find another plug. Yeah, I just tried it.
Everyone have a nice rest of it.
I don't want it. Let me see if there's, Patrice,
Yes?
is there another plug? This one doesn't seem to be working.
What's the plug?
Oh,
I think because.
This is your recipe.
Sorry about that.
that works. That's weird. This is locked in.
Squabs me.
Yep.
Let's see.
Green squabs. I use this as. If I don't have the pan going, I just gotta do all
So if you want, I'll come around with some balls of the salad if you want to try it. And if
three
there's,
portions, you know, 3 small portions, and then I just pop it out when I want.
Pea soup. Pea soup. All right, thank you. What are you talking about here? Hello?
does anyone have any questions at all?
That's for your table.
There's no oil on it.
Is there oil in it?
Yeah, vinegar. It comes from the oil family.
And the last thing is, you know, it's so easy to,
Maybe
a
for-
couple days a week or one day, just try to do a plant-based day. So I love this magazine, and you can get it anywhere. It's Forks Over Knives. I want to make about every single recipe that's in here every time I pick up an issue, but it's all based on fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. It's a great, and they're not like really. You know, I pick out the easy ones. I don't have a lot of time to cook, so I just pick out the easy ones there. But you can get, you know, I mean, we're so lucky we live in a day and age with internet, so you can actually Google any type of recipe at all. But I just have these mainstay recipe books always that I like to still visually, you know, look at a recipe and tactile to feel a book and everything. But this one's all on grains and greens. This one's all vegetable main dishes, and I pick out the ones that I like. This one's all based on nuts. So, you know, it's cheap to get books now, especially cookbooks, because a lot of people use online resources. So these actually go for pretty cheap. But if you're going to do anything, I would recommend this Forks Over Knives, because that's a really great recipe book with easy recipes. So, all right. So let me run this one more time. And I'll come around and just give everyone samples of stuff if you want to try it. But please take any of the handouts too, because there's lots of good stuff there.
Can I help you with something?
If you want to, yeah. I'm thinking we could actually even use this if we probably can come in. So if you want to portion this out, the salad. So, and then a little of the dip too, with some chips, if you want to do that. No, dear.
That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna here one of these with some chips on it.
Okay, all right. Oh, that's great. How are you? You ladies, do you want to deliver these to people? And I don't know if anyone else has, but they can have them if they do. Oh, you're right here.
Is there any nuts in any of this stuff?
Oh, for each table?
Because we have one nut now.
Just one. And that is not adding yes, because I think we're gonna put some nuts on
Everybody just
They're so good.
Mommy, I don't want any.
That's your quinoa salad. There's already one nut on this table.
I love the idea with the avocados on the grill.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's really
You just like dip chips in it after it comes out? Or?
I don't know if it's that soft to pick up on a chip. Yeah. And that's why I like to put a little salsa on it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Just, do you want a bowl for the table or just on this one?
Ronnie, try this.
Oh, thank you. How many little bowls do you think we need?
I don't want that.
Did everyone get some? Oh, okay, great. All right, because I was going to say we just ran out of time.
Not bad. I wouldn't do all that.
Does anyone need one of the little quinoa salads still?
You want it in the house, I got a food processor.
Yes,
I got everything.
quinoa is gluten free. You can have the
I do
quinoa.
all the cooking.
What else do we need? You need more? Okay.
Do you want to try some?
You want quinoa salad?
But if you have to, I don't like this at all.
No, because they have them at the table, right? So,
Eat it. Good for you.
everyone got
Pills.
No,
Pills I
not
talked
yet.
about, right?
How many more? At least two more. Do they need nuts then too, or they have nuts? Okay. Oops, I'm sorry.
I was told.
Do you guys want some of this quinoa salad? I'll bring some back.
Quinoa, the quinoa salad.
Quinoa salad. I can taste it. I did. Did you? Myself. Three, yeah. It's funny because you start. Right, you do.
No, thank you. Don't give me any
For real?
peanut butter marshmallow sandwich would be nice.
Everything I brought, but, yeah, avocado dip is there, and is the salad on that one? No, salad's on that.
Do you need copies of anything?
No. I love the salad's on the back, quinoa muffin on the front. Yeah, let me tell you just something quick about quinoa too. When you get it, usually, it's healthy for you, it doesn't say it on here. Sometimes the manufacturer does it for you, sometimes they don't, so I just always make it a habit of doing it. When you take that cup out that you're gonna cook, put it into like a little colander and rinse it with water. Sometimes quinoa, because of its protective components, it can have a bitter taste to people. So if you wash it just quick, it doesn't need anything big, you're washing off that bitter. because a lot of people say they don't like quinoa because it tastes bitter, and it's probably because they don't rinse it. So rinse it first before you use it.
Let's see.
All right, so did everyone get some dip?
I don't want
And try that? Yeah.
We didn't remember. What do you cook the quinoa? Do you use anything like water or broth?
Water, broth, I use coconut milk, I use milk, I use any liquid. Any
The other
liquid.
thing I was gonna ask you, your yogurt that you brought today, what did you say that was made out of? Yeah.
My yogurt, I go between two. I go between a soy yogurt. This one is,
Try this with
Say coconuts?
yeah,
No, sweetheart, was it better? You guys have dip on your table, right?
it's kind of expensive, and that's why I don't buy it all the time. But it's a Greek yogurt made out of coconut cream. The thing, see, when you deviate from, I always will recommend a non-fat, plain dairy yogurt, and you do your own thing, the fruit and all that stuff. Because in the non-dairy field, there's not a plain one out there. You know, well, I mean, this is plain, but it still has a little added sugar to it. So I would recommend no added sugar. But because I don't know dairy, this is the best thing for me. But the other one I get is the, this one's coconut.
Why she's
This
so
is
tall,
coconut.
you know, she's all food.
But there's another one that I get that's soy milk, it's a lot cheaper, and that one is by, Stony Field,
Yeah,
and that's soy.
yeah.
I get the
Michelle's.
Yeah.
Oh, this.
Oh, that's what she eats?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all.
That's what Sandy eats.
She's
so all that kind of food. That's why she's so beautiful. Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, I should set it up.
Bite size, half and half.
Any of those, any of
This is
those.
the place to go.
All right, well, thank you for having me, enjoy, and we're gonna set up the paperwork on that back table, so before you leave, go get some recipes and information on all those spices and eating from the rainbow and all that good stuff, and hopefully you can make some changes. I think there's a recommendation sheet that's out there too, like what things can you do today to start to move towards getting more plants in your everyday meals. So,
Okay, go get all of it.
Thank you, Mary.
all right, thank you.
That's a lot of work. Nice presentation, very nice.